Welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, Live the Life You Want. I am Jasmine, your host. I hope that you've enjoyed last week's conversation with Mr. Robin Charbit. It was, I have to admit, one of my favorites, and I'm still riding the wave of that convo. And today I'm also happy to have my friend Liv Brunet with me. Hi, Liv.
Hi, Jasmine. So happy to.
How you doing?
Well, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Good. My dog hears your voice and now she wants to jump up. That's
yeah. So my dog is in the same kind of spirit.
So, guys, I want to tell you a little bit about Liv. So, I've actually, Liv is fairly recent in my life. He showed up in my life a little bit earlier this year. We've already met en plus, and Liv is French. I'm sure that you heard the accent, and he is part of the 3P French community because, like I've told you before, we are bringing this conversation to the Francophones. And so we're still learning the new French words, and some people are learning English words. Right, Liv?
Oh, yes.
So I really like Liv's vibe, and so that's why I wanted you guys to get to meet him. He is very creative, and he does cool stuff. And so if you guys want to see, he actually has a podcast on YouTube, right? You only have it on YouTube?
No, on I mean, in video, it's only on YouTube, but I am in audio everywhere.
Okay, cool. So it's a French podcast, but he is so good that he puts subtitles in English so you guys can actually understand what he's doing. And they're short podcasts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really, that's the reason why I'm on YouTube, because I really wanted my English speaking friends to be able to understand what I was saying. And I decided to do it. And also I wanted accurate subtitles, even in French, because, sometimes people do not listen to the sound. They just watch the video with the subtitles because they're on their iPhones or whatever. And for that reason, I had to do the transcription, and then I decided I would do the translation as well. So, and I'm correcting as far as I can do it, considering my level in English. I'm trying to make it as accurate as possible in English. So it's not just like the automatic, kind of subtitles you can find sometimes.
So let's talk about it. So I like the concept of your podcast. So what is the podcast called again? Like, do you have an English name or do you have only a French name?
Well, that's kind of complicated because the French name is Le Réveil en Douce, and Le Réveil en Douce, there's the idea of a softness,
Yeah.
It means, it could mean in English like a quiet awakening or a soft awakening, but that's not what it sounds like in French, because en douce in French sounds a little bit more like on the sly. There is, a little bit of a se réveiller en douce is waking up on the sly. But I decided that with an English friend, I asked her for advice, and she said, maybe you should call it in English, waking up on the quiet. It's not as accurate as waking up on the sly, but on the sly is a little bit too much. So I decided that it would be waking up on the quiet.
Okay.
Because in a way, because I am French and because I'm doing it for the French audience, it's better than, because my first idea was Le Réveil en Douceur, which is really a quiet awakening. But Le Réveil en Douce, but it already existed, so I had to find something else. So I sort of scratched my head and said, what could it be? And then came that idea of Le Réveil en Douce, and I'm so happy with that. And it could be the title of a book also, It's just like you're waking up, but in a way, not not like straight away, you know. It's like you're
It's
doing.
not, so you wouldn't use the word gentle, like a gentle awakening?
It could be gentle also, but again, gentle doesn't carry the idea of en douce. En douce really means like sometimes, you know, people are doing things en douce. That means you don't see them doing it, and do it like you know, it's in a way kind of hidden, and that fits.
It's like sneaky.
French, yes, exactly.
It's like a sneaky thing.
And that's something that we get in France because of the. We were speaking about this, you know, because of the high context language that we have.
Got it. Okay, so like what are you doing inside? Like, explain to my people, my listeners, what you're doing in your podcast. Like, because this is what I understand your premise is. Like, you're new to the three principles, and you're kind of like learning on a daily basis, and for every episode you're kind of like sharing what you've learned, you know, in that moment.
Yes. Well, of course it's easier to understand when you know the story. I discovered the principles. I was not looking for anything. I was just following and supporting my wife, who was dealing with depression and dealing with, you know, questions about life and so on. And she's a searcher. So she was really looking for new stuff. And she's coming from Montreal. So she has this, I would say, American way of looking at things. And I had no idea this realm of understanding ever existed. You know, I was born in a very Catholic family. I was raised with the idea of God being big brother over my head, and of course, at some point in my life, I just threw it away, and I was kind of thinking of myself like an atheist, and still was looking for the meaning of life. Of course, in my job as a film director, because this is my job, I used to do documentaries and so on and so on. So my wife discovered through some coaches that she found on the internet. She discovered one coach, one English coach called Nicola Bird, and Nicola Bird introduced her to the principles. And I had no idea what the principles were meaning, and also non-duality. I was absolutely non-familiar with all those concepts, you know, but it was like 4 or 5 years ago. And I also discovered this English philosopher, Alan Watts. And the work of Alan Watts touched me immediately. I realized he was sharing, you know, Eastern philosophy and wisdom. And then something started within me to shift and to change. And at some point, I make this the long story short. At some point, I felt like most of people realizing what I realized, like you, I guess, that I wanted to share that. And I didn't know how to do it. I was a film director, so the first thing that came to mind was, I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to make a documentary about it. I'm going to interview people around it. But I was like, no, that's not what I want. I want something different. And also I was feeling like, speaking with people about this, you know, I realized that there was an impact, there was something. So I said to myself, maybe I would love to do that as a coach also myself. Why not? And the more I was going into it, the more I was fascinated, and the more I wanted to do it. And at some point I was considering, what? I'm not going to make a documentary, but maybe I could write a book or have a blog or whatever. And I came across Rohini Ross, who offered last summer a free program. And during this program, she was asking us to do things like showing up shamelessly, you know, and doing a Facebook Live. And I used to hate myself and my own image for some reason. Don't ask me why. makes no sense, but that's the way I work.
You're not alone in that. I mean, many people do think the same.
I hate my ears. I hate my, well, I'm not going to go there, So the idea of filming myself, shooting myself, speaking was totally crazy, impossible. But I had to do it within the program. I did it. And then I realized, I said, oh my God, but that's what I could do. I could create a podcast and share this understanding and share what I understand with people. And I started doing it. And then it came from nowhere. Really, I like you said, I'm going with the flow, and it seemed like what life wanted from me. So I started this in September last year, 2022, and on a weekly basis. And I did not want to, think about what I was going to say. I really wanted it to be spontaneous. And it started with the question, who am I? Because that's the big question. It didn't start with the principles.
Yeah.
I knew I would go to the principle at some point, but I didn't know when. And now you have 38 episodes because it's been 38 weeks. And I guess I know that I have inspiration forever, like, I don't know when I'm going to stop or if I am going to stop. I know that I would love to do the same as you do, like interviewing people also. But what I really want is to try to share my understanding with a French audience. So doing it in French, even if I put English subtitles, because in France, the community is, even the word small,
Yeah, it's tiny. It's not even a speck at this point.
No, it's nothing.
It's kind of like there's Jasmine and Marcin in Quebec, and there's, the rest of the world. Yeah, it's really small when you compare with, for example, the Spanish community. It's just, I mean, the scale is incredible. So. And to me, in France especially, we desperately need something like that. I mean, people are so much looking for meaning, especially right now, considering what the world is about and so on. So I don't want to be a preacher or whatever. I'm just here showing myself to the camera, realizing that, well, I can. I mean, it seems like it looks good. I have a couple of hundreds of listeners or watchers, every week. So I'm okay. I could have just 10. I wouldn't care. I really wouldn't. Yeah.
I'm not looking for success,
It's really like, it's the same for me, and like in this podcast, I'm kind of like, okay, I've got people listening, and I'm starting to get people telling me, Jasmine, it's fun. You're just you. You're not trying to be somebody else. And I'm like, oh, great, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. But that was something for me. Like, if I look at myself, this is one thing that I've worked on myself. It's kind of like, I could see how I used to call myself a chameleon. Like, if I go in this group, I would adapt. If I go in this group, I would adapt. If I go in this group, but then when I mix all the groups together, I'd be like, how the hell am I going to act now? Like, I'd get all confused, right? And I was like, actually, I'm not being myself. Like, I'm conforming to what I think. It wasn't even the truth. What I think this group wants me to look like, what I think this group wants me to look like. And I started seeing, through inquiring about this whole thing, and, just it, like the principles. So we talk about the principles, and we were pointing to that. And just because it enlightened us or woke us up about something, some truth inside of us. So, I mean, I can see how some people might think, oh, this is kind of cultish, like people might think that, and people don't need the principles. You guys, honestly, you already have the principles. You're already working with them. You just don't know you are, right? Like Sid would say, everybody, I read an article from Michael. Michael said one of the first things I heard from Sid was, What if everybody is sitting in the middle of mental health, but they don't know it? Right? So that's one of the things that Sid would say. So in the conversation that I had with Robin last week, Robin's like, what Sid said is being said already by a gazillion other people, philosophers and things like that. It's just that Sid found a way to say it simply. Like it's simple. It's not complicated. You don't have to meditate for 75 hours a day. It's just kind of like the more you look into this direction, you see something for yourself. So, the French community is looking for freedom. Like it's really, everybody's looking to be free. Can I just be me? Can I just be free to be who I am? And that's what people are looking for, but they're focusing on, let me find it. No, you already have it. Stop looking and it'll show up. And it's been showing up in their lives on a daily basis for a very long time. Like, we choose chocolate because we like chocolate. We choose vanilla because we like vanilla. Now, you could explain to me why you have chocolate, then you've lost the flow because now you're in your head explaining why. No, you don't need to. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the most striking thing that I encountered when I started to come across groups like and people that are familiar with this understanding, is how quick we connect. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
it's the same for us. We met each other in Montreal when I came. I feel I know you as if we were in kindergarten together, really. And that's the same with all the people I have met since I am in this community. And it's not like a community of people, like you say, like cults. No, it's just people who have realized who they really were and how it works with the human mind and with in universal mind. And just finding that key makes you in connection, in deep connection, without small talk and whatever, with everybody that shares the same thing, that sees the same thing. And it doesn't matter the level of understanding that you have. It's just, you have that. You have the key. Like Mavis Karn says, it's that simple. And when you know that it's simple, even if it's still complicated in your life, and even if sometimes, most of the time, you're in your head, but you know it is simple. And to me, that really changed my life completely, because it for example, within the group I was, because I did a training to be a coach with Rohini and Angus Ross, and we were 30. And now all the 29 people really that I was with are friends like I never had in my whole life. And I really want to hug them. And I'm even considering making a world tour just to hug them one by one, because it would be so nice, so beautiful. The connection is really absolutely incredible. So what for me, really, when I realized that, I said, yes, this is true. That's the truth. I am really in touch with something that is the truth, and that's home. I'm home. I had to wait for 62 years to reach home, but I'm home eventually, really.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
I think for me, one of the big things, so I've been in the conversation for a while, like I've been studying for a while. I think it was like 2011, I think I met Mike O'Neill, but I did my Super Coach Academy in 2020. And I thought I was pretty, I still had some ego there going, I know shit, I know lots of shit, and I'm pretty, and now I'm just like, I honestly, I don't know, and the hardest part for me was to when I've been working with my intuition for a long time, but it was, like I had a thought that, intuition is woo. It was like, I can't say that. I can't tell people why are you doing this? And I would get upset. I remember, but why are you going that way? And I'd be like, well, I'm going that way because I want to go that way. And I would get like very upset instead of saying, because that's the way I want to go. Like, that's where I want to go. And that's the conversation I had with Robin last week. He was like, but why do you call it live the life you want? I don't do stuff I want anymore. I just do stuff. Like I live the life that I have, and then I go with my gut. And I'm like, I get it. That's kind of like what I mean by what I want. It's like, I want chocolate, I'm going to have chocolate. If I want to go for a walk, I'm going to go for a walk. If I don't want to go for a walk, I'm not going to go for a walk. Like there's this thing that shows up, but that there's a different place. It's coming from a different place in me. It's not like, I'm not going to go for a walk because if I do, I'm going to, it's kind of like, do I want to go? Nah.
Yes, because eventually you have no idea why you like chocolate. There is something that likes chocolate through you.
Yeah.
So live the life you want, for me, is let life want whatever it wants through me. That's just like, again, I love this image of the roller coaster. When you jump in a roller coaster, the best way to enjoy the ride is just to do that, instead of trying to control anything, because you do not. And I don't know why I have preferences. I have no idea where they come from. But all I know is that it seems like life wants to express itself through me. And if I let it go, it's so easy, even when it's difficult. It's easier because I remember, I have no control. I'm just doing the things that life wants. Yeah. And wow, what a relief.
So funny, because we're going into this conversation and I have a girlfriend she knows she's going to know I'm talking about her when she listens to this. She sent me a message and she was like, okay, well, now you tell me why. She doesn't have this attitude, by the way. Just that's me that's adding the attitude, because she makes me, I just think she's hilarious. And she was like, why is it that when I want to leave home at 7:30, I leave home at 7:45? Like, why? Like, why can't I do what? And I said to her, well, obviously what you think is not what life wants.
No, exactly.
And she was like, I reject your message. She was just like, I want to lose weight. I should be acting and doing. I said, obviously you don't want to lose weight because you're not doing what you have to do. It's kind of like there's just this whole thing. Like, what do you see in that? Like, let's say you want something, you're like, okay, I'm going to put $10,000 in the bank in 6 months. And then in 7 months, you've got 1,000. And you're like, what the hell? So we can go into the beating ourselves up and say, you suck, you're this, you're that. But obviously, like, what's the use?
Absolutely. What's the use? Yeah. But that's the way we are conditioned. I mean, I've always been told that if I wanted something, I had to want it, and I had to do the things that were necessary. And sometimes it was so hard, and I struggled so much, and in the end, sometimes I got what I was looking for, and I was like, okay, is it really what I want? And I remember that very, very kind of I would say aha moment, but that was not really aha, because it was really painful when because I've been following the model. I mean, I've been following the rules from scratch with my family, how to build a family. So
yeah,
how you have, you marry, you have children, and then you have a house, and then, you have a career, and so on. And at some point in my life, it was really my midlife crisis. I realized I had everything. I had all the things that were supposed to make me happy. And I was like in a song by Talking Heads, oh my God, what have I done? I don't, this is not where I want to be. This is not who I want to be. Something's wrong there. And yeah, and I've been looking until I found this understanding and realized, oh my God, it's not me wanting. I can, of course, if you really want something and you try the hardest, you can get somewhere. But in the end, you may find that it's not where you wanted to go.
Yeah. We see it all over. We see it over and over again. We can go listen to conversations, and people are like, oh, I wanted $1 million. And then once I had the million, I was like, yeah, so what's
exactly
next? It's like we think. So there's a difference between what we think we want and what we really, really want. Like with what we're, like you said, how life wants to come through us. Like for a while, life was coming through me while I was singing, I was singing a lot. Well, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'm talking a lot, but that's I truly love these conversations. And I've told this story before, but when I first started the podcast, it was kind of like I was going the intellect way. Okay. I was like, I really wanted a podcast, and I did a series of chats when I started Super Coach Academy, and I would call them Let's Chat About. And then I would just add whatever. Let's chat about love. Let's chat about, anxiety. Let's chat. So I would just choose. And then I would invite a friend and let's chat about this. And they'd be like, okay. And then we'd just chat about it. And it was so much fun. I literally had so much fun. Didn't think about how many listeners did I have, didn't think about who's my audience, didn't think about, how much money I'm going to make with it. None of it. Had the best time. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do a podcast. So now I sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this podcast. Okay, who's going to be my audience? I don't know. Find your audience, create your perfect listener, talk to that. And I'm like, it's like, okay, now it's already not fun. It's starting to not be fun at all. Then it was kind of like, okay, don't think about it. How are you going to make money? So I started studying, how am I going to make money with this? And it was like, the more I looked into it, the less I wanted to do the podcast. It just sucked everything. It sucked all the life out of the fun that I had originally had. And I got coaching on it. I called somebody and I was like, but how am I going to do money on it? And she's like, Jasmine, stop it. And I'm like, what? She's like, do you want to do the podcast? I said, yeah, just go do that. And I was like, oh yeah, this is whatever happens. And I've had the best time. I've met, like you said, I've got all these, top 3P coaches that came, that accepted. And I was like and it's really being with energy, right? We're kind of like in this beautiful space of just exploring what it's like. And it's just fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And that way I really felt for myself that the ego went out of the way. And I know when I'm doing my podcast, I'm in the flow, and there's nobody looking at myself, like a part of me looking at myself to check if I'm good, if I say the things in the right way. No. I say whatever I say, and then I'm on my edit, software, and I cut whatever I want, and I put because I have fun doing it.
Yeah.
And that was a surprise for me, because originally the idea of looking at myself, at my own image, so much, like a day every week, was like a nightmare. Like, no, you're gonna watch that guy that you hate in the mirror, and you have to cut everything he's going to say. No, the ego dissolved, really. And I was just like, no, I'm on service to try to channel the things that I feel deep inside of me. And it's so easy. It's easy, even when I'm in a hurry, because I really want to commit to have my Tuesday 10 a.m. Publication. So, but anyway, so so far it looks really easy, because the ego is out of the way. I don't care about how many. No, it's not honest.
You like
to watch. Yeah, I kind of like to watch where the curve, and watch if people are watching, and if I get, I like that, but I don't like. I mean,
but it's coming from a different. Yeah, I think like I've talked to you about this before. I think that your come from is different. Like before, you would have looked at the curve with, oh, people like me. I don't think that you're looking at it like that. I think you're looking at it like, oh man, I'm touching people.
Yes, exactly. I'm touching people.
Which is what you wanted to do.
Exactly. I'm touching people, and it's not up to me to decide. Of course, I know that there is a part that comes from just the algorithm, YouTube algorithm, or Apple, podcast algorithm. And I have absolutely no control of that. I could do maybe better with some coaching, people telling me about the, social networks and how to deal with. And sometimes I think about it like, maybe I would touch more people, and that's what I want. I want to be heard by people who need it, who are, hungry.
Want it.
Yes. And who do not even know that they are looking for that, because that was my case. Yeah. I was not aware that that's what I was looking for. But at some point I heard a voice, and I was so happy that I did. And to hear that voice, that guy had to write a book or to make a podcast. And
yes,
simple to that.
I think it's so simple now. I think what's cool in this conversation is that most people, like what I'm seeing, where it feels like it's all different, but it's all the same. Because in the end, what happens is we were slaves to our thinking. We were like slaves to what we had created, like how we should see, how we should look, how we should think, how people should see you, how, like, we were slaves to that. And that would stop the energy from flowing, right? And I think that the essence that I'm hearing in every conversation is just like, oh, well, for you is like, I didn't know I was looking for it, but when I heard it, I was like, holy shit. And I was like, wow, when I heard it, I was like, wait, I can actually be me? Because I was like fighting myself, like, no, stop doing that. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't show that part. Don't be passionate, Jasmine. Don't be angry, Jasmine. Don't be like, it was like, don't. Right? Yeah. Now it's just kind of like, no, I am who I am. And some people like it and some others don't. And it has nothing to do with me. It's like, somebody's listening to us and says, oh, what are these people talking about? Well, it still has nothing to do with us. It's about their thinking about what we're doing,
Yes, exactly. Because with ego, the judgment is dissolving as well. I mean, there is no judgment. And I realized that people, I mean, in my circle, for example, because I'm a film director, again, I'm not at all someone, in the coaching or whatever.
Yeah, you're not a coach.
In my area of work, people are looking at me with surprise, and sometimes I got reactions like, "Oh, wow, you're doing that," and I'm like, "Yeah," I don't know where it comes from, but it seems like life wants me to do that, so I'm doing it, and it permeates, it reaches people, not everybody. Some are still thinking I'm crazy or I fell into a sect, and oh my God, what is he doing? But I don't care. I really don't. And I don't care with a smile. I really don't care.
Yeah. I have a girlfriend that I tell her, it doesn't matter. Like, she talks to me about everything she has in her head, and then I go, it doesn't matter. Now she's repeating it to me. Jasmine, guess what? I heard it doesn't matter, but it was coming from me. I was so it's just It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's fun. I think that there's more joy. Like, I think on a day-to-day basis, there's more joy.
There is, yes. Oh, yes. And I can see it, especially now, because I'm in my own life. I am in a kind of complicated situation, and I see that I'm not going. I'm not going that low. I should be going, considering my previous condition. I would be like, in despair. I'm not. I can see that I can shine whatever happens to me, even if within an hour I'm going to be crying on my couch, So it doesn't.
Well, it was the same thing for me when my mom passed away. I was like, oh my God. Because like my conditioning was, my mom's going to live till she's 94, Well, she passed away at 79. So it was much earlier than what I thought. Right. But I thought that I would break down and I would be, you'd have to pick me up in little pieces. No, that's not the case. That's not how that works.
Yeah. It's the same experience here. Yeah.
Liv, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
See, I told you your English is perfect. You were like, my English is not good, but honestly, I didn't hear anything in your English that was not good.
No, the only thing that I forgot is to take my true French accent.
Yes, you forgot. You definitely forgot.
I forgot. I'm trying my best to speak with some kind of an accent that would be. I cannot hide that I'm French, but it's a little bit better than what I hear from other people.
Very cool, Liv. Thank you so much again. I'm looking forward to what we're going to continue to do together in the French community. And I'm going to put the link to everywhere. Do you have like a website? Do you have people that...
I have a website, but that's my film director website. But I have a special page that is called The Conversation, where I tell a little bit about what I'm doing, and there's a direct link to my podcast.
Okay. What's the website?
It's just Liv Brunet.com.
Fantastic.
And when you go there, you immediately on the conversation page, because that's the first one that shows up, even if my job is at film director. And there's also a page about my musical. I'm doing music, but I'm not. I used to sing, but I don't sing anymore. Yeah. Otherwise, we could sing together.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd love that.
Well, guys, I'm going to also put the link to his YouTube channel directly so that you don't have to wonder, but you'll have all of that in there. Thank you so much. You're going to be able to go read his podcast. And thank you very, very much again for accepting. It was fun. We had fun. Everybody else, I'm going to say, dream it, dare it, do it, live the life you want. And I'll see you next week. Bye.